I sort of feel like I need to get into daddy mode here, and not in the fun way. Like, I feel like the anime community needs a spanking because a show like Helck, being now 11 episodes deep, and a majority of these episodes have been so good, and like, the things I'll see criticized are things that I kind of wish we could rewind back in time, because maybe people have just been spoiled with fancy looking anime anymore, because I remember back in the day, people were okay. If you saw a 240p version of a part of an episode on YouTube, that was considered quality. You'd watch and you'd be going 1, 2, 3, somehow you'd be missing part 4, but 5 and 6 would be up there. And people bitch and moan about the visual quality of this show, yet they ignore how good the character and world building is. And I already know there's going to be someone, but Brandon, you didn't talk about it last week, so aren't you being a little... No, Brandon had a bit of a life going on last week, but I'm still back up here and trying to hustle this show, because episode 11 specifically is probably the best episode of Helck so far, and the more we get into this show, the more fascinating the writing becomes, looking at this shadowy monster who is actually just a tormented soul who lost himself in the darkness trying to protect a loved one. And we see that this is literally, potentially anyway, Helck's future if he's left unchecked. This show is quality and deserves so much more praise than it's getting. And we can't even blame it on there's too much anime or this. No, there's the same amount of anime every damn season. It's just for some reason, this show is just being slept on. And I'm only one man, and I try to hustle this show, but people just won't listen. Now, before we jump any further, I gotta mention, we do have full live reactions to both episodes 10 and 11. I did them both today over on my Patreon, so you can head on over there and see them if you're interested. But we do got 2 episodes of Helck to discuss. And honestly, I'm kind of glad I did have 2 episodes, because the way they ended the episode in terms of episode 10, immediately I was like, man, I need to see where we go from here. Episode 10 was the weaker out of the 2. It was kind of fun. It was kind of like Food Wars. We had foodgasms. We finished up the fight, and we kind of just were setting off on our next adventure. But episode 11, that's where the real content really starts going. And there was a lot of uncertainty walking into episode 11 because ultimately we have the map and we end up buying it for like 50,000. Very expensive overall. And it's still very hard to tell what's going on there. Like, obviously, both sides are almost acting like they don't know about it. So it's like, are we in time discrepancies? Did we travel forward or backwards in time? Or is this just uncharted territory that's never been explored for certain sections of the world? We don't know. All we knew was that there was going to be a guard of some sort, a shadowy warrior, and I mean, it was intense. I mean, anything that can cut Helck says to me that this is an intense situation. And even though he wasn't like getting gashes to the point of being stabbed in his gut, the fact that when you start seeing cuts on his cheek to his abs, I mean, the boy has abs of steel, like they're probably made out of adamantium for all I know, and he's getting cut. Sure, he can also flex his muscles to heal himself, but that's besides the point. Every time we were taking arms off, it would just repaired itself. You broke its sword, it repaired itself. And I love what they ended up doing because before they set off, Pee-wee ends up getting a little whisper and then Pee-wee comes back. I wasn't sure what that was. I wasn't sure if we could trust it or not. Turns out that song would be something that would come in clutch to save the day. Pee-wee's kind of got this love-hate relationship going on with me. I think Pee-wee is an incredibly entertaining character that also infuriates me and just I feel like is Humpty Dumpty 1 second away from falling off the wall. But at the end of the day, Pee-wee did come in clutch here with that song because we got to witness, because there's certain shots and there's certain moments that I think Helck and its fandom have argued, what is Helck's most intense moment? The death glare, his, oh my god, he's going off his rocker. I don't think there's any arguing this was the most intense moment. And I think when we rewind back to the witch, she said, Helck will be your greatest ally. He will be there for you. Pretty much saying that Helck is your ride or die. However, when Helck gets to his end, whatever is there, whatever is left, could be so dangerous that we don't know what will end up stopping him, or if anything will, and if the world will even be okay. And it's very easy to look at how many times Helck has done things, whether in this episode, like literally he mentally snapped because of Lady Anne and wanting to protect her. But at the end of the day, someone with this amount of power, the fact that he's not even using magic, he's using pure One Punch Man brute force. The fact that he snapped to that point and, you know, what she was saying, like, let's just run, you can't, it's indestructible, right? And it's true, he would have kept pounding and pounding and pounding, and ultimately it would have regenerated, and he would have got angrier and angrier to the point of potentially slipping up and even dying himself. If it wasn't for that song, it's pretty much guaranteed that thing would have just been in an endless cycle, and who knows what would have looked in terms of Helck, like what he would have looked like, right? So the fact that she was so terrified, and afterwards he's just so considerate, like, are you okay? And she's like, obviously upset, because when you think about it, these are the moments that remind her, like, because what's interesting is if you look in episode 10 and you look in episode 11, there's 2 points with the enemies that they're facing, the leader of that orc or whatever the hell they were, and then of course the shadowy warrior. Both times she got a chill up her spine and was petrified. However, there was a third moment, and that was when Helck completely snapped. He had the death glow, and he was frightening. And the fact that she has to consider that the man I'm traveling with is protecting me, is basically being a ride or die, I'm trusting him, but the worry of someday he could do that against me because of whatever is going to happen. And how would we defeat that? We couldn't. So there is that genuine fear, and kind of, I'm going to make a comparison, but almost similar to in another show that's airing this season, Last Boss Queen, which is an Otome game anime. The idea of that fear of what can happen in the future is kind of like the biggest thing that makes that show so fascinating, on top of good character writing. And I feel like in a similar way, Helck kind of has a similar thing going on with it. And when you consider the fact that the shadowy warrior that he was going up against really could be an indication and a future sight of what Helck could become someday, someone who had good intentions to just try to basically protect the ones that he loves or to stop more bad things from happening, and ended up getting corrupted to the point that he was wandering like that for so many years, up until obviously Pee-wee and the gang were able to set him free. And yeah, Helck gets a sweet new blade because of it, but brother and sister, yes, it's heartwarming in the way that he gets to know that he did protect his sister, that, he gets to pass on peacefully, but it's also so heartbreaking to see someone lost in such rage and sorrow for so long. And this is his reward after, just trying to do the right thing. And we have to worry of what that could mean for Helck in the future, right? But episode 10 was a fun episode as well. I mean, the action and the resolution with the princess and everything wasn't really anything too crazy. It wasn't produced anywhere that insane. And I think, if anything, episode 11 had a bit more time in the oven to cook. But it was nice to see what they all look like once they are no longer cursed, and I thought it was also very fun having almost Food Wars, Helck edition, especially because they were like 20 or 30,000 short for the map, and within a couple of hours they made payday. And honestly, it was kind of hilarious seeing Lady Anne basically have a foodgasm and just shoot to the moon, as basically like one dude made a pizza and it was like a stew competition, but I guess it tasted good, so it was still okay. It was a fun episode. Like, it was a simplistic, fun, almost setup episode, and the payoff that we got in episode 11 was oh so worth it. I truly think Helck has been one of the most consistent narrative, character-driven series of this anime season, and it's such a shame to know that, because what usually happens with the anime community, whether it's a popular show, a decently watched show, or in this case, an underrated show, once you get into the second core, people just fall off. Like, you're already seeing it with viewership and discussions already, and it's a shame, because no matter what, I'm going to be watching it. I will keep covering it on Patreon no matter what, but unfortunately, it just seems like the demand isn't there. It's a shame, because I legitimately think this is so amazing, and hopefully, eventually, people will stop sleeping on that Helck greatness. But let me know what you thought. I think most people probably are going to discuss episode 11, but if you got thoughts on episode 10 as well, let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell. And like I mentioned, we have full live reactions to both of these episodes over on my Patreon. And hey, while you're there, you'll also get a video shoutout like QFogger AMV, Rachel McPhee, Rain Reaver, Raj Vermullins, Randomly, and Ronga Rage are getting today. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.